Hunger, poverty, they seem on their 5th birthday die of hunger. Child malnutrition is widespread in developing countries such as Bangladesh and Ethiopia. Poverty leaves babies underfed, stunting their physical growth and hampering their mental development, so they face a lifelong battle against learning difficulties. Weakened immune systems leave children vulnerable to diarrhea, malaria, or respiratory illness. 15,000 die daily from these preventable diseases. Some parents are too poor to feed or house their children and simply abandon them to the streets. Others can't afford to send their children to school. Some force their children to drop out. Some allow their kids to become bonded laborers so they can supplement the family income. They work long hours in dangerous and dirty conditions for little pay. Often, employers abuse or exploit these little ones. Girls frequently meet a worse fate when parents force or even sell them into prostitution. They become emotionally and physically scarred for life. HIV brings many to an untimely end in their life of struggle. Poverty breaks up families, destroys human dignity, and leaves its victims without hope. Can we sit back and watch its heartbreaking work without doing anything? Some see those who reach out to the poor as deserving special praise, but in fact such help should be the natural response of all Christian people. CEDAR, as a poverty alleviation agency, hopes to be an effective channel to facilitate it. When we hear of people in urgent need, following conflict or natural disaster, we respond as fast as we can through suitable partners on the ground. When the immediate crisis has passed, we then try to help victims rebuild their lives. Since the 1991 floods in East China, when CEDAR first got involved with relief among distressed people, we have helped many disaster areas around the world.
From the start, CEDAR has been involved in many disaster situations. These photographs provide a few examples. Early in 1996, an earthquake hit Lijiang in Yunnan, destroying their health school. We helped rebuild it, and this photo was taken on the opening day in 1997. In 1995 and 6, devastating snowstorms wiped out livestock in Qinghai and Sichuan provinces. Churches gave generously so we could distribute hundreds of yaks to families who would otherwise have been destitute. CEDAR also works in many other countries. For example, we have helped Bangladesh combat their annual floods of 96, 97 and 98, their worst year when the waters took 3 months to recede. 1998 was also China's worst year for disasters in the 10 years that we have been at work. In January, an earthquake in Hebei province, massive volumes of water burst the banks of the Yangtze. In July, floods hit Hubei province so badly that the people you see here were still camping on the dikes in September. We helped the Hubei Provincial Christian Council to feed and house victims. They distributed bags of rice. Heilongjiang was not spared either. In December, I visited Harbin after hearing that their dikes had given way. Houses were washed away, submerged beneath 3 meters of water, and then, as the waters iced over, trapped in frozen waste. This was a huge husbandry farm. On the banks of this river, it was heartbreaking to see survivors construct shelter with wooden logs, sandbags, or anything else that would combat the bitter cold. CEDAR built 2 schools near Harbin to replace those washed away. We still remain involved through donated tuition fees.
Disaster and conflict are devastating in the sudden way they bring death and displacement of people. But longer term, life can be even harder for those who face poverty day in, day out, year upon year. It seems inconceivable that 1.2 billion people struggle to exist on less than $1 a day, always hungry, with no access to the basics of life. Among the hardest hit are the 600 million children of the world who are starved, health deprived, lacking sanitation, and living with disease, disaster, and the trauma of wars that have left thousands orphaned. There is a way you can help. For 180 Hong Kong dollars a month, you can give a child in our sponsorship program meals, clothing, medical attention, school and tender loving care in a Christian atmosphere. Many children in Ethiopia, India and the Philippines have benefited from this program.
Between us, we sponsor 12 children. They come from the poorest developing countries in Southeast Asia. Why do we sponsor them? Because as Christians, we are deeply convinced by the verse in James that says, "To be pure and faultless is to keep oneself from being polluted by the world and to look after orphans and widows in their distress." The command to keep oneself from being polluted by the world instructs us about our personal relationship with God. The command to look after orphans and widows instructs us about our relationship with the poor in society. And those children that we sponsor are some of the poorest. So our sponsorship is just to demonstrate our faith in God.
In our sponsorship, we deliberately chose girls because of the inferior social status of women in developing countries in Southeast Asia. We wanted our money to help those children who are the most neglected. Through our sponsorship, we are also showing our own children that many people in the world live in very harsh conditions and that they, in comparison, have many blessings. If possible, we hope their horizons will broaden as they grow up. Someday, they may become concerned not only about their own needs, but those of others also. I recall how deeply touched I was after CEDAR sent me a letter encouraging us to give Christmas presents to the children. I duly donated some money. Soon afterwards, I got a photo from CEDAR where I found all my 12 daughters wearing new dresses. Moreover, those dresses are the first new clothes they have ever had. I hope all of them will grow up into fine young women.
Poverty brings a constant struggle against hardship and material need. It strips away hope, self-worth and dignity, leaving only rejection and desperation. So we not only try to meet physical need, but also to impact the mindset of people to give them hope. It takes long-term commitment, but as the potential of the poor is nurtured, they become self-sufficient and lives are changed. We often use microcredit loans to this end. When this financial provision is combined with the skills and hard work of the borrower, it often breaks the bonds of poverty. We have seen many benefit from such programs, women especially, in Bangladesh and India.